I have a really quick update on the Jonathan Joss murder investigation in Texas. Jonathan Joss was an Indigenous gay actor who appeared on shows like King of the Hill and Parks and Rec. He and his husband had endured months of homophobic harassment from neighbors. They had called the cops dozens of times about it. Earlier this year, Joss's home was burned down and his dogs were killed. According to Jonathan's husband, while they were at that property, a neighbor came up to them shouting homophobic slurs, and it ended with Jonathan being shot and killed. Now, I made a video absolutely outraged because one day after that murder, the San Antonio Police Department had already concluded that no hate crime had occurred, despite a mountain of evidence to the contrary, including a statement from Jonathan's husband, who was there when the murder occurred, and said that the shooter was shouting homophobic slurs. Like, how could the San Antonio Police Department come to that conclusion so quickly? So I made a video urging Jonathan's celebrity colleagues to use their massive platforms to push for a hate crime investigation on a federal level with the DOJ and also at the local level in Texas. So that video blew up. There was a lot of outrage. There was a lot of public pressure. And just 2 hours ago, the San Antonio police chief walked back the department's earlier statement saying that a hate crime had not been committed. I'm citing an NBC News article that came out this afternoon, Thursday, June 5th. The title is San Antonio Police Walk Back Statement Dismissing Possible Hate Crime in Jonathan Joss's Shooting Death. Shouldn't have done it. It was way too soon before we had real information, and I will own that, San Antonio Police Chief William P. McManus said on Thursday. According to the journalist Marlene Lenthang, the San Antonio police apologized for a premature statement declaring that there was no evidence of a hate crime in the death of Jonathan Joss. Again, one day after the murder, when they clearly had not time to thoroughly conduct an investigation, the San Antonio police released a statement saying, despite online claims of this being a hate crime, currently the investigation has found no evidence to indicate that Mr. Joss's murder was related to his sexual orientation. Jonathan's husband, Tristan Kern de Gonzalez, who was there at the time of the murder, said he believes his husband was killed for his sexual orientation. Here's the full statement from the police chief. Shouldn't have done it. It was way too soon before we had real information, and I will own that, McManus said. It was way too early in the process for any statement of that nature to be issued. No shit, Sherlock. It actually makes me wonder if there would ever have been any investigation at all if Jonathan had not been a famous actor, if there had not been that large public outcry. Okay, the rest of his statement. We understand that many in the LGBTQ plus community are feeling anxious and concerned. A lot of it has to do with the premature statement that we released, and again, I own that. Shouldn't have done it, he continued. Just a note here, the man who is accused of shooting Joss, potentially in a homophobic hate crime, was released on bond on Monday. They only asked $200,000 bond. I'm really grateful for the update. I'm glad that the San Antonio Police Department is listening to public pressure. I also just want to add here, because a number of folks said it in the comments of my original video, and I completely agree with them. It's impossible to discount the way that Jonathan's indigeneity also played in here. According to the U.S. Department of Indian Affairs, Indigenous Americans are much more likely to be the victims of violent crime perpetuated by non-Indigenous Americans. That's true across all genders, but it is important to note that Indigenous women and girls are at 10 times the risk of being murdered compared to the general population. I think for some of us living in cities, we aren't really aware of how significant the discrimination and overt bigotry against Indigenous Americans actually is. We used to live in rural Oregon. My husband worked for a tribe there, and the most shameless, brazen, overt racism I have ever seen was committed by white people against the Native population in rural Oregon. Honestly, it was shocking for me as somebody who came from a city. Anyway, I understand that the main concern here is about the potential hate crime related to Jonathan's sexual orientation. But I think that anytime a Native American is the victim of violent crime, we should be having this conversation. Anyway, I look forward to the updates in the investigation, and I hope that Jonathan's husband and his family get justice.